Hey guys, it's your boy, Tom Talks Rubbish, and I'm back with another video. This time, ranking from worst to best every season of one of my favourite TV shows, Castle. For those of you that didn't see the video I put up a few weeks ago with my talking about my top 10 favourite TV shows, Castle was on that list. And basically, the plot of Castle... Oh, by the way, guys, this video is going to be chock full of spoilers. So if you haven't seen the show and don't want it spoiled, click off this video. This one ain't the one for you, etc. But next to me, I have each season of Castle on DVD. And I'm basically going to be ranking them from worst to best. There's 8, by the way. So number 8 will be the worst. Number 1 will be the best. And I'll basically talk about each season, why I did like that season, why this season why this season isn't higher in the countdown, why a season is, what stopped it, what got it higher, etc. So basically, those of you that don't know, the plot of Castle is Richard Castle, an author, played by Nathan Fillion, follows around a NYPD detective known as Catherine Beckett, played by Stana Katic. I think that's how you say her name. I do apologise. But anyway. And yeah. So they... What's it called? He basically follows her around and helps her solve crimes as he researches plots and police procedure for his next novel. Spoiler alert already, guys. Eventually, as the season goes on, they develop feelings for each other, get married, and deal with all the challenges that come with that. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a minute. So, let's start with number 8, season 8. This was the final season of Castle, and I don't want to say you could tell it was the final season, but you could tell. The way, spoiler alert already for when I talk about season 7, but the way they wrapped up season 7 was perfect. We'll go into that more in a minute. And you could just tell that this season was rushed, it was unplanned, it was not as good as the others, for lack of a better phrase. Basically, by this point, Beckett has been promoted to captain, so Castle can no longer follow her around. So he works on his PI business, private investigator, for those of you that don't know, because earlier in the series, he did become a PI for reasons that I'm sure I'll get into later in the video. And they have this pointless character called Hayley come in, and she's basically his partner at the PI office. She's great, don't get me wrong, she's English and she has some really cool moments, but she just seems really pointless and like she came up out of the blue. Also, with season 8, they break them up. They break Castle and Beckett up, not only in the workplace, but she leaves him. We later find out it was to protect him from someone that's hunting her, but the fans had wanted this all their lives, through the course of the show, should I say, and to just break them up felt so like a slap in the face almost. But don't get me wrong, season 8 does have some highlights. Like, we see Beckett as captain, we see her interacting with 2 detectives she used to work with now as their boss. She has 2 detectives on her payroll, by the way. Kevin Ryan, who is an Irish detective, an Irish-American detective, and Javier Esposito, who is I think he's Cuban, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I'm not sure. Detective. And we see them taking on more responsibility, taking the sergeant's exam to move up as everyone else is. So that's really cool. It does have them highlights. One of my favourite episodes from season 8, funny enough, involves Esposito when his ex-girlfriend, who he sent to prison, has to be furloughed out to help find the the members of the Diamond Heist crew that she got put away for, basically. Again, the ending of the show where the person that Beckett was hunting locks at, we think he kills him and her and Castle, but it flashes forward 7 years at the end to reveal that they survived and they now have 3 kids. Castle has a daughter, by the way. I should have mentioned that from a previous relationship. So yeah, I do like this season, but it's just not as good. It just felt rushed and not as good, really. By the way, guys, I'm looking down at my iPod because I've written...
Playing from Tom's iPod Touch.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I've written each season how I think they would be rankings, just to remind myself. So, number 8, and that's just... I like this season, but it's just not as good as the rest. Number 7, season 6. Again, a really good season, but just not as good as the rest. By this point, Castle and Beckett have got together. I should mention, they are they've got together. They're just struggling to find out where their relationship is going. She, in the cliffhanger for season 5, got offered another job with the FBI, so Castle is forced to basically realise, does he love her or is this just a fling? I think by the end of season 5 he does realise he loves her, and he proposes. That's the cliffhanger for season 5. Anyway, I went on a massive tangent there. So in season 6, she, spoiler alert, accepts his proposal, and we see a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? We see a lot of their wedding preparations and bits like that. We also have an episode where Esposito and Ryan, who I spoke about earlier, are trapped in a fire as Ryan's wife, Jenny, is about to give birth. So we have some very emotional moments between them and the other characters while they're in the burning building. They survive, by the way, but right at the end. But it's a very emotional episode. We also have an episode where Castle's dad, who he's never known, he meets him in season 5. I'll get to that in a minute. And he, who he's never known, shows up after. He's a spy, by the way. He shows up in one of their murder investigations, basically trying to clean up a mess that was made by intelligence, and he sort of uses Castle to get information on the investigation because it was his informant that was killed. I really like that episode. We also have the return of... we also have Beckett. Basically, another thing I should have covered, Beckett's mother was murdered, which is the whole reason she became a cop, and it's a whole international conspiracy, etc., that later leads us to someone called Senator Bracken, who was responsible for her murder, for her mother's murder. He basically ordered it. He is finally taken down in this season. And the reason this doesn't rank as highly as maybe some of the others is I really don't like the cliffhanger. It basically, it's on the way to Castle and Beckett's wedding, and Castle basically goes missing and his car is inflamed. And spoiler alert, where that story goes is another reason I don't like season 8, and why season 7 isn't too high on my list, but still high. Anyway, but yeah, I like season 6 a lot, but just not as much as I like other seasons. So that's the season 6 DVD, by the way, guys. Next one is season 5. In this season, the cliffhanger for season 4 was basically Castle and Beckett have finally got together. She's quit her job over the investigation into her mother's murder. And And where do we go from here? Where we go from here is a lot of awkward moments, which are very endearing between them as they try to hide their relationship from their captain, who, coincident, I'll speak about more in season 4 because that's when she first appears. But there's a lot of sincere romantic moments between them. They go on their first romantic vacation together, which is really cool. And of course, there's a murder, so they end up investigating a murder while they're there. It's called Murder He Wrote, which I thought was a very good play on words. There's the return of 3XK, who is a serial killer that first appears in season 3, and he frames Castle for murder in an episode. There's an episode with Castle's ex-wife showing up, basically to size Beckett up and to find out more about her. Pardon me. There's a Secret Santa episode, and Beckett and Castle trying to find their own Christmas tradition. There's in the episode, Santa turns out the killer's dressed in a Santa suit, so we get a lot of play with that, which is really cool. Trying to think what else. Trying to think. As I said, we meet Castle's dad finally in this, which I absolutely love. Castle's daughter gets kidnapped with her friend, and we later find out that she was kidnapped because of Castle's father, who is a spy, and he killed the guy that kidnapped them's wife. So this is revenge, and him and Castle go on this spy mission to find them. He basically becomes Liam Neeson in Taken in the 2-part episode, which I found really cool. As I said, I am not a big fan of what they did for the cliffhanger, which was the proposal. The proposal I liked. I just didn't like the prospect of Beckett getting another job. I thought that it became too lovey-dovey towards the end, maybe. I can't... No, I do really like this season. Let me have a look. Oh yeah, we get an episode where Ryan investigates his past, so he has to go undercover again. I love his dynamic as playing a bad guy almost, like when he's undercover. That's really cool. We get not much of Esposito in this. Well, like, he's in every episode, but no personal episode for him, which I thought was a bit downer. So that's pretty much it. Why I like that season. The next one is Season 7. As I stated in Season 6, the cliffhanger was for going into Season 7. Castle goes missing. He's eventually found in the first episode, but doesn't remember where he's been for 3 months. And we see a lot of that. Also, he is fired from the precinct at Christmas for working a case for the mob, and decides to become a private investigator. We think to be able to work with Beckett, but he later enjoys the private investigating world so much that he sticks at it. So we have a cool case of him trying to find information on a murder before Beckett does. We have one where he has to investigate a husband for cheating on his wife, and that opens up a very good dynamic where she is later murdered, but he obviously thinks and Castle becomes obsessed with trying to figure out that the lady's wife did it, which I thought was really cool. We have a really cool episode on a plane where Castle has to solve a murder on the way to London, which I thought was really cool. And on top of that, we get confirmation of, like, we get more Esposito and Ryan episodes. This, not so much for Ryan, but we get a lot of Esposito in this season where he's held hostage on a train, which is really cool. We get... Oh! The return of 3XK, who's a serial killer they've been after, as I spoke to in Season 5. And that is what ultimately leads to Castle being able to come back to the precinct, which I find really cool. and the finale. In this finale, Castle basically goes after a killer from his past when a body is found with the signature that a woman had that he saw when he was a little kid. Anywho, so in that finale, he's also preparing to receive an award for writing, and he does this amazing speech when he gets the award, basically thanking his family, his mother, and his daughter, thanking Esposito and Ryan for allowing him to basically become their brother in arms. And then he does this really emotional bit in the speech, which still makes me cry every time I watch it, where he says to Beckett, "Thank you. This award," I don't know why I did that, but this award is because of you. 7 years ago, I thought I would never write again, and because of you, I now have a success again. And in the cliffhanger for this season, it's a bit of an open-ended cliffhanger, so like they could have left it where it was, like no one was dying or anything. Beckett got the offer to run either for, I think it's, I apologise to any Americans watching, state senator, or she got the option to become a captain. And we don't know what's going to happen there, which is why I would have quite liked it if they left it at season 7, because you could have made your own conclusions and it weren't like anyone was dying or anything. We also get an episode. It's gonna really annoy me. Oh, we get an episode where Castle investigates his action hero's death. It's gonna bug me. I know I'll come up with a load of ideas later. But anyway, I just really like season 7. Next one is season 2. In this season, Castle and Beckett are not dating, not together, but this produces some really good dynamics where he's still a child trying to figure out cases and basically playing cop, and I really like the dynamic of that. There's some really good episodes where Castle goes on a date with Beckett's friend when they investigate a murder at her restaurant, and you can tell she's jealous even though she hides it, and that is a fun dynamic that I really enjoyed seeing. You also get an episode, this is the first season that we start to see more of the supporting characters, like Captain Montgomery and Detectives Esposito and Ryan. So in one episode, Captain Montgomery investigates the murder of a Bike Messenger, who had information on a case he investigated when he was a detective. We also get an episode where Esposito's former partner, who he thought was dead, resurfaces and they investigate the last case they worked together. We get an episode where Castle investigates a murder at the wedding of Castle's former girlfriend. So again, we see more jealous Beckett. We also find out not who was behind the murder of Beckett's mother, but who he hired to do it, basically. And I absolutely love the episode where we find out, but she is forced to kill him before he can tell her, who was behind it. So, yeah. Oh, and the opening is really cool with this season, because at the end of season 1, Castle basically begins snooping around Beckett's mother's murder, and she has basically said, if you do that, we're done. So she has basically, I don't know what the term would be, not fired him, not quit, but sort of said, you're not allowed to shadow me anymore, because he looked into her murder. So in the first episode, we have a scene where he's promoting his book, and his new book, by the way, that he wrote based on Beckett. And she's basically forced to play nice with the press, which is really cool. He then He then finds ways to make up with her, and all she wanted was for him to say sorry. So I really like that. We also get one where Castle, along with Ryan and Esposito, bet over a case, which I thought was cool. We also get one where we think the series might end because Castle is offered to write a certain British secret agent books. It's James Bond, guys, but they never say that. I don't know whether there was an issue with being able to say that. But anyway, so we get that. There's also a new detective who's not attached to their squad but works with their squad a lot, who Beckett starts dating. So we begin to see the kernels of jealousy in Castle, as we've seen with her in previous episodes in this season. And the ending of this season ramps up the jealousy because she plans on going away with her boyfriend. Castle has basically said to Beckett, I'm going to take a break from shadowing you because I really need to write my book. So, and then at the end of the season, she's planned to go with him to the Hamptons, but at the end of the episode, should I say, of the season, she's planned to go with him to the Hamptons, but his ex-wife then shows up. Like, she was going to tell him, Beckett was going to tell Castle how she feels, but his ex-wife showed up before she could, basically. So you are left with that, and we wonder what's going to happen in season 3, basically. The next one is season 1, in my opinion. The greatest opening season to a TV show, in my opinion. I love the pilot, which was basically how they introduced all the characters. Basically, people are starting to kill people based on how Castle has killed people in his own books. So I really enjoy that episode. I enjoy watching him learn how to work with the police and not go off on his own and like play cop almost. I enjoy when he's actually helpful, and like there's an episode where people are breaking into people's houses and he goes to a source that he used to base a character on to find out how they did it, basically. So I really enjoy that. I really enjoy him and learning to adapt with the other detectives. Yeah, I just feel like it's a good season to start off with. There's no there's that small cliffhanger I spoke about earlier. So there's no cliffhanger going into season 2 that's big, that I didn't like. But I think this one's just so low because I like the last 2 we're going to talk about so much. Speaking of, the second from best season is season 3. In this season you had so many good episodes where, first of all, I really like the premiere, where, as I spoke about in the last season, Castle's taken time off from shadowing. He hasn't called Beckett, so she's basically waiting for him to call, but then fate intervenes and he is found at a murder scene she is investigating. Obviously, it's a crime drama, guys. So that sort of thing happens. They then have a bet because she doesn't want to take him back as his partner. Well, even though she secretly does, guys, she just doesn't want to admit that. So she, what's it called? If they can figure out how these murders are connected first, if he can figure out how these murders are connected first, he can come back as her partner. If he can't, he's gone, basically. So yeah, and then we also get another episode where like we're starting to ramp up the search for Beckett's mother's killer. The person that hired him, should I say, because we know who the killer is thanks to season 2. And the detective that investigated the case is killed right in front of Beckett before he can tell her, should I say, what happened and why he thinks things are connected to his own past. We also get an episode about pizza, and because I love pizza, I love that episode. We then get an episode where they have to work with this gruff Homeland Security agency Beckett and Castle nearly die in each other's arms in a big freezer, which always gets me each time. We get an episode where Castle goes to bat for his friend who is suspected of murder that I really like. I know I'm missing something out, guys, but let's talk about the finale. My favourite finale in Castle history, I think. Castle and Beckett basically find more information that the person hired that hired Beckett's mother's killer is involved with a group of corrupt cops, who turns out to be one of them cops, other than the guy that was investigating her mother's murder and his partner, Captain Montgomery, who is Beckett's boss. His death scene, every time I watch it, tears me up. He basically sacrifices himself because he's basically told by a group of bad guys that work for Senator Bracken, who ordered Beckett's murder, bring her somewhere and we're going to kill her or we'll kill your family. He basically sacrifices himself so that both Beckett and his family can live. And his death scene, where the guy that runs the group that was trying to kill Beckett basically says to him, "That was what, your last stand?" And then he holds over him with a gun to his neck, but with his last ounce of strength, Montgomery lifts his gun and manages to shoot the guy that shot him and kill him before he ultimately dies. And then the cliffhanger. We then get at Montgomery's funeral, Beckett is giving the eulogy. I think that's what it's called, a eulogy, until she's shot by a sniper, and Castle basically tackles her to the ground, confessing his love for her before she doesn't die, but she passes out, I guess? Not really sure. And then that sets up a load of things. For my favourite season of all time, season 4. This is my most favourite season. Right, it has so many good episodes. Starting with the premiere, where Beckett is obviously rushed into hospital with a gunshot wound. Castle is racked with guilt because he's the one that pushed her to look into her mother's murder, and that was the reason she was shot. Castle, we also get episodes where Castle's mother, Martha, who I don't think I've mentioned before, is held hostage along with him in a bank. I absolutely love that episode. We get an episode where Castle and Beckett are handcuffed together and don't remember how and have to figure their way out. We get an episode where, Castle works with a gang cop who, I don't want to say he doesn't play by the rules, but he basically is a lot more a man of action than Beckett is. So like, he allows Castle to carry a gun, he allows Castle to help him interrogate a suspect, and basically they get into a bar fight. I love that episode. There's another, but ultimately he then realises that Beckett's way of doing things is better, because Castle wants to, the guy whose name is Slaughter wants to send an innocent man down from the crime, because he's not so innocent, but he's innocent of this crime because he's a gangster, basically. Another episode I really like is The Limey, where a English detective comes to investigate the murder of someone that's basically like a sister to him in New York, and we get a lot of flirtatious moments between him and Beckett, making Castle jealous. We get an episode where Beckett is forced to confront her feelings on her shooting when another sniper attack is happening in New York. We get an episode where, I'm trying to think, brain, not now. Oh, also, we are introduced to Captain Montgomery's replacement, Captain Victoria Gates, also known as Iron Gates, who basically is a former internal affairs detective, and no one likes her to start off with. She doesn't like Castle working at the precinct. She doesn't like how Beckett is investigating her own shooting and her mother's murder. Like, she basically tries to change everything, but later learns to not like Castle, but learn that he's a valuable resource. Let's put it that way. I'm trying to think why else I like. Let me just open it. Oh, we get an episode where they flash back to like the 1940s and all the characters are dressed in 1940s attire as characters from a murder that happened in the 1940s that they're investigating. We get, sorry guys, as some of you know, my memory is terrible. We get a Cinderella inspired episode where someone's killing people dressed in princess costumes. We get Ryan's wedding, which I absolutely love, and the episode following that where a con man, businessman who basically sleeps with powerful women to gain information off them is killed. We get more information on Beckett's mother's killer in the finale, and Castle and Beckett get together in the finale. We see the mayor of New York, who Castle is really close friends with, nearly go down because of he's involved in a scandal. Basically Castle is trying to protect him from. And we get the mystery caller, which may be my favourite storyline in all of... Basically, when Beckett is shot and Captain Montgomery dies, he basically handed off papers to one of his friends, basically saying, these papers will keep Beckett safe, please keep her safe. So, but through all of season 4, Beckett doesn't know about it because Castle is the one getting the calls and basically tells her to stay away from her mother's murder. But then they have this big blow up in the finale, which is eventually what leads to them getting together. Yeah, guys, I love this show. I love this season. If you haven't watched it, I highly recommend at least watching season 4. Give this video a thumbs up if you like it, guys, because I've rambled on for half an hour. But take care. It's been a pleasure.